How do you write in that voice?
Well, watch a lot of the shows. Yeah, watch a ton of Rick and Morty, and then yeah, it just kind of comes out natural. It's just when I was doing the sections that I did, I just embodied Rick, and it was really fun getting into his space and then writing this adventure. Because first of all, there's immense freedom that comes about with it. It's like anything's possible. I can do whatever the heck I want. And we weren't constrained by traditional D&D sort of format, the way we do things. It was just like, all bets were off. We could, swear, we could make up crazy crap. Things didn't have to work correctly. It didn't have to be balanced. It could just be bonkers. But even though we had that freedom, we still want, in the backs of our minds, even though we were going nuts at the time, it was like the back of our mind, we were like, okay, this is going to be played, and this still has to be fun, and it still has to have enough of a skeleton and a spine and a backbone and a purpose and a reason and a theme and all that to hold together and not be complete chaos. So people are just like, what are we doing? It had to have a through line and had to have reoccurring themes that happened over and over again, so that you do feel like you're in a story and you do have something to work on. So,
what is it like to write in the voice of the Rick and Morty universe?
Challenging. It's very difficult. It's hard to write for anybody else's IP, but specifically for one that is so beloved and so specific. And also, Rick is a genius, right? And arguably, so is Dan Harmon. So if you're writing you're trying to channel the geniusness of these people, one real and one not, and you're just a very average person, that's challenging. However, being able to write Dungeons & Dragons content in Rick's voice from a comedic perspective was a delight. Like, it was so satisfying. I was writing all this in Microsoft Word, and then, months later, I see it get pooped out by our graphic designer into our actual D&D format, and I see it laid out like a D&D book, and like I was weeping laughing, because there's no reason. She did a search, and I think she found out that the word butt appears like 158 times in the adventure, and that's more than I think we've established a world record for how many times we use that word in a D&D adventure. That's just one. This is one of the 13-year-old potty humor type of references that we got in there. So every step of the way, I was just astonished that people were letting us do this, that we were getting away with it, and it was getting approvals, not only from D&D, but also from Cartoon Network. It's like, have they read it? Do they know what we put in this adventure? Okay. And that we've sent it to them multiple times, and they've given us approvals, and I assume somebody's over there reading it. But
it's just an unopened UPS box.
Right.
Yeah. Cartoon Network.
Check mark. Seems fine.
This one's good.
There was a point where we were trying to figure out, because usually our box sets, our products say 12 plus on the outside, and there's some swear words in this product.
Yes.
So we were like, 12 plus, maybe that's not high enough. And I know that there was a meeting between our VP Nathan and the president of the company, Chris Cox, and he was like, we're putting out a Rick and Morty product, and there's some bad words in it, but we bleeped them. They're censored, but they're bad words, and there's some butts and stuff in it. And Chris was like, it's fine. But we got it moved up to 13 plus. That feels like a huge accomplishment for me. So yeah, I'm maturing the brand.
You're maturing the brand.
I'll put that on my resume.
Well, one of the parts that I wrote, I won't say what it is, but it was inspired by my buddy and I a long time ago. We had to paint the walls of a Chuck E. Cheese. And in Ohio, because I was in Ohio at the time, and it wasn't called Chuck E. Cheese, but it was called Mark's Funtime Pizza Palace. And so what we'd do is we'd go in at night, and the manager would lock us in around 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock when they closed. And of course, everything was left on, video games and the automatic robots. And so we would start painting, in 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, we'd start to get delirious. We were painting like happy dinosaurs and fun lands and stuff. And every maybe half hour, the animatronic robots would
No.
ding, 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 you know, and they would go and they were like, "Hey kids," and they would say this pat spiel, and it would just go over and over. And after like, you know, 10 of these, you know, like 3 in the morning, and you've gone through this thing, and it just starts to become madness, and the video games are going ding, 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 blah, 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 and I memorized all the different things, like, you know, put in 5 cents for the blah, 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 and like, hey, you got cotton candy, or come back and get your cookies, like, and just that over and over again became this like madhouse. So, so when I was writing this Rick and Morty section, I was like, okay, this I can draw on that. I can draw on that episode of my life that was just sheer madness, and put it into a room. So that was one of the rooms I wrote, and it's called Frankie Frames.
So that's so upsetting and disturbing.
Yes, it is disturbing.
So we'll be seeing creatures, magical items in this?
Yeah, you'll be seeing crazy creatures. Yeah, you'll be seeing animatronic robots. You'll be seeing bugbears with 2 butts. You'll be seeing a magic item called the Churd Cannon.
Oh no.
Yes, and the Churd Cannon is actually inactive when you first encounter it, and by your sheer genius and the direction of Tommy Two Butts, who is a genius in his own right, you have to take the Churd Cannon and reactivate it, and you work together like a meeting of minds, and through brilliance and science and magic, you activate the Churd Cannon. And there are a particular set of instructions that you have to follow. You have to calibrate the chronometon, and you have to clean out I think it's called the Drockle Spreen trigger. Like all this stuff you have to do. And each one is a test of your abilities and skills. So if you activate it, well then you can continue on. If you don't, well, then there's hell to pay.